Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Quick Strikes, where we take a look at every Tampa Bay Lightning game right after it happens. Unfortunately, we cannot come to you today and say that the Tampa Bay Lightning are Stanley Cup champions, as they fall in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals to the Dallas Stars 3-2 in double overtime. My name is Mike Wax, joined here with my co-host, Philip Wunderlich. Phil, a very frustrating.
Yeah, like you said, it's very frustrating. And any Bulls fan, you were expecting to win a cup, but unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait till Monday to see what happens.
Yeah, and as soon as the game started, you could tell that the Stars were really, really into it. Because of course they are. If they didn't win, they would have been eliminated and the Lightning would have won the cup. So the Stars dictated play, even though it seemed like the Lightning were getting more chances, the Stars were getting much better chances. And of course, just a couple of minutes left in the first period, the Stars break the dam open. Jamie Alexiak finds Tyler Seguin, who gets it over to Corey Perry. Perry gets it by Andrei Vasilevsky to give the Stars the early 1-0 lead, and that really felt like a deflating type goal for the Lightning, but exactly what the Stars needed here in Game 5.
Yeah, Perry scores a typical Perry goal, goes in front of the net, and he does what he does. Unfortunately for us, it hurts us because we're down already 1-0, and it was deflating. It took the wind out of our sails early, and that was not a good feeling.
Yeah, and you look at the first period shots. First period shots were 10-8 in favor of the Lightning, so it was a pretty even period. But it really felt like Dallas came out strong. They got a lot of opportunities, not on net, but just overall. Was really dictating play inside of the Tampa zone. But the Lightning, they're always willing to push back. We talked about this dozens and dozens of times. Whenever they face adversity, they will respond in spades. And here in the second period, just under 5 minutes into the period, they respond really well. And of course, it's the first line. Braden Point gets it over to Nikita Kucherov. Kucherov kind of leaves it for Andre Palat, and Palat with one of the best power moves that you'll see in these playoffs, driving around the defense, getting it by Anton Khudobin, and tucking it into the back of the net. They forgot about Dre, his 11th of the playoffs, to tie the game at 1.
Yeah, this was a great move by Palat. He gets Khudobin completely out of his net, and he gets it around him. It was a great shot, and like you said, we're tied at 1-1.
And, I'm really just so happy for Andre. I know I've talked about this before, but when I was talking during the game, I actually met Palat back in 2015, I think it was. So that's 5 years ago already. And the growth of a player that he's become since not only 2015, but his debut in 2013 is really nice to see. And
Yeah.
the fact that we have 3 players with 10 plus goals in these playoffs is 100% fantastic on its own. But one of them being Andre Palat is so nice to see. The fact that he's still with the team, 2, he's healthy, and 3, he's contributing.
Yeah, he is contributing. Like you said earlier, you forgot about Dre because he keeps scoring. The way that Palat has really matured over the time being from, like you said, from 2013 till now is amazing. I mean, you can look at least 2 of the triplets to see how well they've been performing. You see a way that Nikita Kucherov's been performing in these playoffs as well as Andre Palat. But unfortunately, Tyler Johnson just can't get it going yet.
We have to move on to the third period. In that second period, shots were 13-6 in favor of the Lightning. So now the Lightning dictating the shot clock at 23 to just 14 for the Stars. And that would be a theme for the rest of the game, not so much in the third period, but definitely in the 2 overtimes. As in third period, just 3.5 minutes into the third period, Braden Point gets the puck over to Mikhail Sergachev for a one-timer, and it just goes posting in. That Jonathan Drouin trade is still making us so proud. Mikhail Sergachev, with a beautiful celebration afterwards, he really thought that was it. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but Sergachev has struggled in these playoffs, and we're very glad to see him get on the score sheet.
Yeah, I think we all are glad to see him get on the score sheet. And what a shot that was! That was a complete bomb. It didn't hit anybody on the way to the net either. It was perfect. There's no other word for it other than being perfect. And I really like that shot by Mikhail Sergachev.
Well, you see all the time that Sergachev, whether it's on the power play or at even strength, loves to get that wrist shot, try to get that wrist shot for a tip or just straight on the net. And sometimes it works, and most of the time it just doesn't because it gets blocked. But the slap shot of his has really matured over these playoffs. We saw the power play goal against Boston, saw this goal. It's really nice to see that he is willing to try something new because the wrist shot, got to be honest, Sergey, it's not working most of the time. Love that it's dynamic when it does go in the back of the net, but I love that he's taking a new approach to the shots.
Yeah, and I mean, Slapper paid off yesterday, so keep it coming.
Exactly, exactly. And like I mentioned earlier, Sergachev celebration, the team celebration, they really thought, all right, we get another one, it's over. Well, they didn't. So 10 minutes later, about 13 minutes into the period, Tyler Seguin gets it over to Miro Heiskanen. Heiskanen on this play with his 20th assist of the playoffs, which is insanity for a defenseman. Gets it to Joe Pavelski, playoff Joe with his 13th goal of the playoffs that ties Braden Point for the league lead here in the playoffs. Pavelski is a playoff performer. We saw that not necessarily last year because he got hurt last year with the Sharks, but we've seen that for years. And I know that as a Ducks fan, you saw him all the time with the Sharks. He was a fantastic performer. So this one hurt. I'm not going to lie. And I know it probably hurt for you too.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, underlining, I am a Ducks fan too. So anytime a former Shark or a current Shark scores, it's deflating, personally. But like you said earlier, the way that Mikhail Sergachev scored and the way they celebrated, I thought was going to be over before this.
Yeah, and credit to the Stars. They got that tying goal. They pushed for it, and then they kept on pushing, and they kept on pushing for that go-ahead goal. And I think a lot of Lightning fans were very skeptical about, can they get out of the third period? Can they get to overtime? And they did. And then they dominated overtime. So at the end of the third period, the shots were 13-7 in that period. Much closer representation after 60 minutes than after 40 for the shots on net. And, we saw this against the game 4 sort of penalties and the whining and the complaining that the Stars were doing. The referees put their whistles away. There were 3 penalties the entire game. There was the Tyler Seguin high stick on Braden Point. There was the Carter Verhaeghe slash on Miro Heiskanen. And there was the Eric Cernak high stick on Joe Pavelski. I'm not going to say that the refs were terrible because that would be generous. But they missed a ton on both sides of the puck. I understand that you wanted to put the whistles away, but the fact that there were only 3 penalties in this entire game is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I don't think that the Cernak penalty was that great a penalty either. I kind of feel like it was a sell job, but like you said, they did put their whistles away. So if you're gonna call it that way, at least call it the way the whole game, and they kind of did. So I'm not gonna really complain too much on the refereeing, but like you said, there was a lot of missed calls on both sides.
Yeah, they were bad on both sides. I'm not gonna say like, oh, the Bolts got jobbed. They were terrible for both teams, and I think we saw that with multiple missed penalties throughout the Twitter timeline on both teams. Whether it was a high stick that got missed, or a boarding call that got missed, or I saw that Eric Erlandson put Yanni Gord was put in a figure 4 Ric Flair type lock, and they didn't call anything. That's just, if you're not going to call anything, don't call anything, and they didn't. So. Can't blame the officiating for this one. I did think it was a little strange that only 3 penalties were called. But in overtime, the Lightning dominate play, dominating the shot clock 7-2. and they had a couple of really, really good chances. The Stars didn't get a shot on net in overtime until about 17 and a half minutes into the OT period, but we go to double overtime, and the shots were a little bit more even. It was 4-all. The shots were not indicative of play, excuse me, and doesn't end up mattering because Corey Perry scores because the Stars get one chance and they capitalize. That's the way that they play. In front of the net, bangs in a rebound goal, one of the most unlucky plays that you will see for the Lightning. And it's not all about luck, but man, can we get a lucky bounce, please? Like,
Yeah. Good
come
luck.
on.
Not going our way for sure. In the first overtime period, I felt like it was more dominated by the Bolts, and they were really buzzing during the whole overtime. But I feel like after they came out for the second overtime, I could tell that the tides were changing, and even though Dallas was losing it in the shot battle, they were winning on the ice because I could tell that the momentum was on their side. And like
Yeah.
eventually, it pays off for them because Corey Perry scores the game-winning goal.
You mentioned before, like Ducks fan, not a fan of Joe Pavelski, but Corey Perry, former Duck, so that probably didn't help though because it cost the Bolts a cup.
Yeah.
So, there is a give and take with every single player on every team. On how much you like them when they score for your team than when they score against your team.
Hey everybody, this is Michael Wax. I apologize for the inconvenience, but the video and the audio decided to cut out while we were filming. Didn't know that until I started editing. So what we talked about was about Steven Stamkos, about potentially returning. We now know he won't. Talked about our positives and negatives. Nothing huge that you missed in terms of goals or saves or anything like that. But thank you guys so much for watching the video in the first place. Be sure to give it a like, a share, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter at @Bay_Bolt for all your news, notes, and game recaps every single game. We'll see you for Game 6, hopefully with the Lightning raising the Stanley Cup. Take care, guys.